All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a mental process that's running in the background of pretty much every decision you make, but you probably don't even notice it. It's called straight line thinking. You could say it's the brain's default setting, and today we're going to put it under the microscope.
So just think about this for a second. When you have a problem to solve, does your mind kind of lock onto a track, starting at point A and just chugging straight ahead until it gets to point B? If you're nodding along, then hey, you're already halfway to understanding what this is all about.
So what is it, officially? Well, straight-line thinking, you'll also hear it called linear thinking, is all about sequence and logic. It's super orderly, it's clean, and you know what? For a ton of situations, it's incredibly effective. It's all about finding that shortest, most direct route from problem to solution. No detours, no side quests.
So here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start with the basics of this thinking style, then we'll put it head-to-head with its more creative cousin. After that, we'll look at the good and the bad, see how it's actually used to persuade people, and finally, do a quick check-in to see if this sounds like you.
Okay, first up, let's try and get inside the head of a straight-line thinker. We're talking about a mind that just loves logic, it craves structure, and it really needs a clear path forward.
So this kind of thinking really boils down to four main things. First, it's sequential. You got to do step one before you can do step two. It's like climbing a ladder, no skipping rungs. Second, it's categorical. It loves putting information into neat little boxes with clear labels. Third, it's data-driven. We're talking facts, figures, charts, things you can prove. Feelings? Not so much. And finally, it is laser-focused on the goal. It's all about being objective-oriented. Getting the win is what matters most.
You know, one of the best ways to really get a handle on something is to understand what it isn't. So now we're going to see how straight-line thinking compares to its polar opposite, the wild, freewheeling style of lateral thinking.
So here you've got the two right next to each other. This whole distinction was really popularized by the psychologist Edward de Bono. On the left, you see that structured, predictable, vertical path of linear thinking. And on the right, that's lateral thinking. It's messy, it's expansive, it's all over the place.
And this table here just lays it all out perfectly. Take a look at movement. Linear is that straight line, A to B. Lateral thinking? It's jumping from A to Z to M and back again. Or how about the goal? A linear thinker is on a mission to find the one correct answer. But a lateral thinker? They're trying to find as many different answers as possible. So you can see one is built for precision, while the other is all about innovation.
Here's a really easy way to picture it. Straight-line thinking is basically like being a construction manager building a house from a super detailed blueprint. You have to follow the instructions exactly. You pour the foundation first, then you build the walls, then you put on the roof. Order is everything. You can't just wing it.
Now contrast that with lateral thinking. That's more like an artist standing in front of a totally blank canvas. There is no blueprint. There's no step-by-step guide. It's all about exploring, playing with ideas, and letting one splash of color inspire the next in a way you could never have predicted.
Okay, so let's be clear. Neither one of these is better than the other. They're just different tools for different jobs. So let's dig into where straight-line thinking really shines and where it can get you into a bit of trouble.
I mean, this thinking style is the absolute foundation for entire fields that demand precision and logic. Think about it. You definitely want your engineer building a bridge to be methodical. You want your accountant to be data-driven, and you want your lawyer to follow a very clear, logical argument. In these worlds, it's a superpower.
But here's the million-dollar question, right? This approach works beautifully when the path is clear and the rules are set. But life, and especially other people, are rarely that neat and tidy. So what happens when that logical track just ends?
And that leads us right to the blind spots. First, a real difficulty with ambiguity. Gray areas are just deeply uncomfortable for a mind that's looking for a clear yes or no. Second, there's the context problem. You might totally miss the emotional subtext of a situation because you're only paying attention to the literal facts. And finally, rigidity. When the plan goes off the rails, it can be really stressful because there's no backup plan for the unexpected.
All right, now for something really fascinating. This exact mental model has actually been turned into a really powerful and, yeah, sometimes controversial tool for persuasion, especially in the world of sales and business.
So the straight-line system essentially takes this thinking style and uses it as a strategy in conversations. The entire goal is to steer someone down a path that you've created, carefully guiding them to one specific conclusion, and usually that conclusion is getting them to say yes.
The psychology behind it is often called the bead on a wire analogy.
Every single word you say, every question you ask, is designed to be another bead that methodically moves the other person along this wire. You're trying to narrow their focus, get rid of any distractions or doubts, until your conclusion feels like the only logical place to land.
So we've covered the theory, we've looked at how it's used. Now, let's make this a little more personal. Let's do a quick self-check and see how much of a straight-line thinker you might be.
Just listen to these and see if they ring a bell. Do you get kind of antsy or itchy when a meeting doesn't have a clear agenda? When you go to a bookstore, do you grab the how-to guide instead of the book on abstract theory? Do you feel like small talk is just an inefficient use of time? And are you the friend everyone calls when they need a practical, step-by-step plan? If you're nodding along, you probably lean pretty heavily into this style.
I absolutely love this quote from Einstein because it just nails the balance we all need. See, Einstein wasn't just a logic machine. Of course, he used incredibly rigorous straight-line thinking to prove his theories, but it was his wild, off-the-charts lateral imagination that allowed him to even dream them up. He needed both.
And that's really the idea I want to leave you with. Your logic is the tool that builds the plan. It's essential. It's how you make things happen in the real world. But what's your imagination going to build? The real magic happens when you know when to stay on the tracks and, more importantly, when it's time to build a whole new destination.